From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, it's Just the Tip-Sters with Melissa Morgan.
Konnichiwa.
Today with special guests Colleen Weaver-Farrell and Brooke Tipton, sister and stepmom of missing person Matthew Weaver Jr. Remember, if you've got a tip for Melissa on anything, tell us about it by calling the Tipster hotline at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837, or send an email to jttipsters@gmail.com. You just might hear your tip on the podcast. And now here's your host. She knows exactly where Waldo is, and he'll be released as soon as she's done questioning him, Melissa Morgan.
More cowbell. I will give Waldo back immediately. He's a piece of poop. I don't like Waldo.
He's not a good interviewee?
And he wears striped shirts and has a knit hat on even when it's hot.
I don't get that.
I don't either. I don't like Waldo.
And it's hot.
It's very hot. He shouldn't be wearing long sleeves and a knit hat.
Okay.
No, I don't like him at all.
All right.
So I can't believe what would this be? Episode 102? This
is 102.
Holy cow.
Hard to believe, huh?
It is. I can't believe how far we've come, and I really am just going to have to say thank you to producer Mark, because it's him that's cattle prodding me along the way.
Well, it's the Tipsters too.
Then the Tipsters.
It's the listeners that make this happen.
There's no us without you, which, speaking of, this week's episode would not have happened if not for Tipster Jennifer, who it's a local case to her, and she was wondering why it hadn't gotten more press and coverage, which we'll talk about, here in the episode. It's it's really one of the most layered cases I've ever read about, and I would not have even attempted to cover it because it's so fresh and new, and because I felt I would be bothering the family, and they reassured me that no, I wasn't bothering them. They want to talk about it. It's just not something I do. It's been covered by some other media and other podcasts, and I'm trying to say this without throwing everyone else under the bus. I am grateful and happy that people want me to cover unsolved cases or missing persons cases. It feels like doing something proactive. It feels better to do something proactive, which Colleen and Brooke mention in the episode, that they feel better. I was coming from a place where I don't want to disturb a family who's going through a lot, but they feel better knowing that they're working on Matthew's case. And it feels good to have a platform to put out a story about a case as layered and bizarre and troubling and puzzling as Matthew Weaver Jr.'s case.
Oh, and it's all of those things.
It's all of those things and more. And I love podcasts, and I love this medium and this message and this platform. I don't like when someone inserts themselves into a case, and you can say that I have done that, but I really try not to. But I don't like when someone inserts themselves into a case that's, someone's life, someone's family member. It's just, I don't like it at all. So I didn't want to insert myself, so to speak. And I had walked around the house and I cracked myself up and thought it was hilarious, and Mark didn't laugh at all. But I called those people suppositories, and I thought it was hilarious. Because they are literally shoving themselves up people's assholes.
Yeah, I didn't laugh because I agreed with you.
I don't like that. So when Tipster Jennifer said, would you please cover this case because it's something weird is going on, I think she didn't even know how weird it was going to get, how deep into the rabbit hole we were going to get. And there's still more digging, and I'm going to have to get like a backhoe and to do some more digging. But before you hear this episode, we want to talk to you about a podcast that we love, hosted by Jason and Rebecca, and it's called Ghost Town. And they do wonderful field trips to all sorts of different houses, structures, places that, could hold the memory of someone, or a ghostly feature a haunting of some sort, just something, a weird event. They're a really terrific podcast, and here's a promo about them.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Lieb.
And I'm Jason Horton.
And we're the hosts of Ghost Town, a comedy podcast about all places abandoned, tragic, mysterious, haunted, and true crimey.
That's not a word. We cover all kinds of locations like
the Los Feliz Murder House,
an LA murder frozen in time, Action Park,
the world's most dangerous amusement park, John Benet Ramsey's house, Woodstock 99, the Cecil Hotel, and the Black House.
Ooh, Satan. So pause the podcast you're currently listening to immediately and go subscribe to Ghost Town.
You can find us at Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.
So with this episode, and I know Tip-Sters will listen, and I know that crowdsourcing is really a thing, and it's a beautiful thing. And I've read recently a couple of articles that say podcasts have, compromised investigations. That's never been proven to me that a podcast has been so egregious.
2 words: horse shit.
Well, that makes me happy too, because the thought that a podcast host would do something like that, I'm going to say it would be like in the 1 percentile of humans who host podcasts, because I really do believe that most people who do this, it comes from a good place inside them, where they want something good to happen, where they want to be helpful, not hurtful. And honestly, Matthew Weaver Jr.'s family, I've never seen a family come together, and every family who has a missing person, a missing loved one, comes together, but organize and structure themselves as a machine. This family has done detective work. They've done the policing that the police could and should do. And as you'll hear in this episode, there's a lot more going on in the area. And it's even bigger than Matthew's disappearance. But we're talking about Matthew in this episode. And we're going to leave all the information that we can in the show notes. There is an online link for 797 aerial photos of the area where Matthew went missing. It's a fascinating rabbit hole to look at the photos, because a surveyor took a drone and took these photos and this video. They found evidence. They found some of Matthew's clothing, definitively found some of Matthew's clothing. One item still needs to be tested, which you'll find out is a really horrible labyrinth that hopefully we can get through. We can get them through and get them some help. So I have never done this before. We always say, the title of the podcast is called Just the Tip-Sters, where we want tips, where we ask you for your tips. You can email us, you can call us, but more importantly, you can call Matthew Weaver's family. You can text them, you can message them on Facebook. There are lots of ways to get any sort of information you might have, and I've never seen a group of people, family, friends, loved ones, who are begging for crowdsourcing. They are begging for people to help them find anything, any piece of information. And a lot of people think, that's such a small thing, I don't think it matters. I don't care what you think. If you think it's nothing, you tell them the nothing, and they'll decide if it's the nothing. So we really are asking for your help in this case. I've never done that, where we're really asking for your help, Tip-Sters. And it's a much bigger thing. It's going to be a much bigger case than we think. But for right now, if you have any information about Matthew's disappearance, we will find the area where you can submit your tip and get it to the right people, because he deserves to be found and his family deserves that peace. So please listen closely to this interview with Matthew's sister Colleen and his stepmother Brooke. So we're really blessed today to have the family members of Matthew Weaver Jr. with us to talk about his case. He's been missing since August of 2018. We have his sister Colleen and his stepmother Brooke. Thank you both for being with us today.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
You guys are wonderful representatives of Matthew and your whole family. You have been nothing but exceptional and and beautiful in your explanation as to, as much as you know what's going on. So I know you've been over this a million times in different media outlets, but we're going to go over it again for someone who may be new to Matthew's case. So Matthew was 21, 22 now, I guess he'd be 22.
Yeah, he'd be 22.
Yeah. And last August, of 2018, he was having from all accounts, a bit of a tough time before he went missing. And I will tell you, I've never seen the amount of not mainstream media attention on a case, and I've never seen the amount of mainstream media ignorance of the case. There's been so much reported. I mean, it's a real rabbit hole to go looking for information on Matthew's missing case, and I can only credit his family and friends for being so open and transparent about everything in his life, which is rare and fantastic because that's the things that help someone get found. So it's odd to me that media hasn't covered this more. I have a theory, although with Elaine Park also being missing, it's kind of put a chink in my armor, but it's called the white woman syndrome, where if you're a white girl between, the ages of 18 and 30, they'll look under every stone. But if you're a grown adult man, you can pretty much go F off.
Yep, I've said that from the beginning. If Matthew was a college student or something, it would be a lot different. It was so hard for us to get any media attention initially. The only way we got media attention was, trying to tie in what could have happened to him when they captured that Anthony Rauda guy, because the media was all over that, and that was the only way that we got them to even look at us. And again, that's just one theory, but
no, it's a great point you're bringing up right up front. Before we even talk about the details of Matthew going missing, it's a really strange time in the world of Malibu. Malibu is an odd place. I will be honest with you, the reason that we're talking is that a listener to the podcast begged me to cover Matthew's case. She is from the area, and she was like, I'm not seeing a lot on this. And I was like, what? I guess I knew about it from the beginning because those are the things that catch my eye. But she, was like, I didn't find out about this till just recently, and it's just terrible. And she really wanted me to cover it. And then she, knows I've kind of waved my black flag against the Lost Hills Sheriff's Department, which we'll get into a little later. And I'm really shocked at the way the LAPD, because of the jurisdiction it was in, is handling things also. Really, this Matthew's case is really layered like I've never seen, quite frankly, never seen.
It's very difficult because we're in that gray area of the missing person, and I quote. So basically, although we know that there was some foul play, of course, something happened.
Has to have been.
We know that.
Yes.
But because of the lack of evidence right where his car was, now they hand him, over to the LAPD, which they really have no business having his case. If there was just one little bit of evidence left behind that day near his car, this would be Lost Hills' problem, and 100% should be. It's in their jurisdiction. I keep having numerous people from that area reach out to me and tell me, experiences they've had up there, strange encounters, being held at gunpoint, but behind that gate by those guards, all kinds of stuff. And so to me, it's like, well, there's a problem in this area. And I 100% in my heart have always felt like, Matthew ran into some trouble up there. He didn't have enemies. He wasn't gang affiliated. He didn't have enemies. If you met Matthew, you loved Matthew. Any person that met Matthew. You can
tell. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that, and we will go back to kind of go through the timeline. One of the things you notice when you look at any pictures of Matthew is that he can try to be something that maybe he isn't, a little tougher, but you can see in his eyes he's just a big teddy bear.
Yep.
And
100%.
Yeah, you can look right in his eyes and see, I don't care if he has his arms folded over his chest and he's trying to look tough. He is a little boy in that body, in that grown man body. You can hear it in his voice in the videos when he's talking about animals. You can see it in the pictures where he is next to a dog, his whole body is different. His whole body, his whole face changes when he is around a dog. And apparently that, or an animal, that really comes through, that he had this love of rescuing animals, which is, that's just one of those things that you can see his heart, and it's obviously something in your family, because you can see your heart to Colleen. And even though you're not biologically related, Brooke, you are obviously part of that formed him and made him, who and what he is. So he's a really interesting kid in my mind, because he has a lot of interesting things that he is interested in, like racing cars and rescuing animals. But he's also just seems like salt of the earth kid, but not stupid, but would walk through his life offering to help people.
That's exactly how he was.
You can see it. He just looks like a guy that if my cell phone battery was dead and I needed to call someone, he would pull out his phone without a hesitation.
Yep.
It just seems like this very sweet guy. And you can hear in the interviews with his friends that adore him. And you don't have that unless you're the kind of person that deserves to be adored. So let's start back a little further. Matthew had, I didn't want to hear the parts about Matthew had a difficult childhood, because, I don't know any human being who's had a great journey.
Yeah.
There's good parts and bad parts, but when someone goes missing, sometimes it's easier to focus on the things that were difficult. So difficult childhood in that his mother left when he was an infant.
Yes.
And that obviously imprints something big on him. But Brooke, you were there at some point to help him along the path. Yeah.
Yep.
So I, not to insert myself in there, but my parents were divorced. My mom left my dad when she was 8 months pregnant, and they were divorced by the time I was 2. And I had my grandparents as like a second set of parents. So I had my mom and my grandparents. So sometimes, our family isn't always the people that gave birth to us. It's sometimes the people that are around, but sometimes the people we choose. And it sounds like Matthew would have chosen you, Brooke.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
That was my boy.
Yeah. You can tell you are a huge part of his life. So he was, 21, working, like kind of apprenticing with his father to be a lineman. Is that sort of? Yeah. And so the day, sort of backtracking the day of what happened, he went to pick up some money he was owed, and then was just sort of off to do things that a 21-year-old would do. Exactly.
Yeah, he went and picked up some of his paycheck, and then just went and picked up that female friend, and they stayed out together all night. For a while, we were pretty upset just because we never got a chance to speak with the girl he was hanging out with, and it was important to us because, she was the last person to see him. So, we just wanted to know, like, what was going through his head, what was his state of mind, how much did you guys have to drink? Was he belligerent? Was he drunk? Was he,
Right.
That's very important, and she actually finally did just reach out to Colleen a couple months ago and had a long discussion with her. So we were able to get some information from her as well there. And that, like I said, that was information that we've been waiting to hear. So according to her, they did a little drinking and a little partying, but Matthew, she said, was not wasted at all. She said he wasn't drunk. He wasn't, in a no shape where he couldn't have driven. And, we asked if he had like any other party stuff on him or nothing, and she said no, that he seemed fine. I guess they had a really deep, intimate conversation, and he did pour, a lot of his baggage out on her and tell her, some of his stories, his struggles, and he cried to her, I guess, and that's why she stayed with him as long as she did. Through the middle of the night, because she felt bad, saying like, hey, I got to go, because she had to work.
She had to go to work the next day, right?
Yeah, yep. So she sat with him till like 5 a.m., and then she said that by the time she dropped him off, he had pulled himself together, and he was okay, and he told her that he was going to go home. And, I mean, her timeline checks out because we were able to footprint him through his Snapchat app.
Right.
That was like the one thing we were able to access right away. And it does show him, dropping her at her residence, but then he doesn't go home. He goes straight down to Topanga over to Mulholland and then hits Stunt Road, which is typical for Matthew because he does this quite frequently. Like, he loves to drive. He's a car enthusiast, and he loves stunt roads. That's his jam. He goes and cruises Stunt Road just when he's bored or just, just to go blow off some steam or just be alone or whatever. He really enjoys that. That's something that he normally does, so that it was not, anything
out of
strange
the ordinary.
that he drove up there.
Yeah.
Correct.
So he tells, and just so we don't confuse it, I'm Melissa, and I was not with Matthew. Another Melissa was with Matthew that night. It was a fairly new friend. Now, your family's working with this private investigator, Jaden. So he apparently got some information from Melissa, and then it was, sort of put out there that she was being belligerent and not helpful. But I'm grateful to hear that she reached out to you, Colleen.
It took a long time. Many calls and texts, and she randomly just called me one day. And I was at work, and I was like, oh my God, I can't miss this.
That's right.
I have to answer it. So I had to go in the back real fast, and I had to answer on my Apple Watch and record it with my phone. Because I wanted my family to hear it. I wanted PI. I wanted everyone to hear it. That that it took like an hour, but everyone needed to hear it and hear what state of mind Matthew's in, because we had, like Brooke said, we had no idea.
You didn't know. Yeah.
We didn't know if if he was having a rough time after, or if he was completely okay, or if he said he was going anywhere after, which he said he was going home.
Right. So I put a lot of things down to youth. I mean, who hasn't made mistakes when they're young, right? We can all say that. Yeah. But why did she explain why it took her a long time, and why this random day? Did something hit her? Did something remind her of Matthew? Did she just...
Well, she did, and I'm going to tell you this right now. I think what prompted her to finally get in touch with Colleen is that, some other interviews and stuff that we had put out there kind of like aimed a lot of suspicion at her.
At her, yeah.
And I think that is what prompted her to finally get in touch with Colleen and say, hey, but it's like, girl, come on, like, of course, when he goes missing and we know you were the last person with him, of course we're all going to feel like, okay, did he know something? That's very typical. And I've always believed that she didn't have anything to do with it, honestly, because she wasn't even a close friend of Matthew's. Right. I imagine now she probably wished she never hung out with him that day,
That was a fated day.
It was just, it was really important for us to get that information and to get in his head, everything he told her, what he was wearing, this, that, did he take any drugs? Was he drunk? Like, all that stuff is huge. So, I mean, once she did finally call Colleen, Colleen told her, like, we just wanted to talk to you. But apparently, from what she told Colleen, the reason why she hasn't stepped up or not wanted to speak to anybody but the police, because she had to, those detectives and the PI had questioned her, and she was compliant with them, and they cleared her of any suspicion as well. Like, her story 100% checks out.
Right.
But I think that she had told Colleen that just the information that Matthew had given her that night, like just the
overwhelmed
all the stuff that he told her, she didn't feel comfortable. Like, what was she going to say? Like, she just didn't. She didn't feel like it was her place to like tell our family, like, oh, he's saying all this stuff about, she just didn't know what to say. And she said that she also has some guilt because he had reached out and called her,
right?
And while she was at work,
right.
and she was unable to answer the phone. And so she says, still she feels guilty every day. Like, if she would have answered that phone call, would he still be alive? Maybe if she wouldn't have told him, don't make sure you go home or just something.
Right.
She says that she has that guilt, and it's been eating at her. But again, like, she didn't know what to do with the personal information she told us. She didn't feel it was her place to tell. You know what I mean? So that was her.
That clears up a lot. Yeah, that clears up a lot. Which I'm going to put down to youth. When you're younger, you don't think about the outlying consequences. Like, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to get involved. I don't feel like it's my place. And all of this was cleared up so beautifully with communication.
Yeah.
Just fucking talk. You know,
Yep.
I mean, I don't, there's just no other way to put it. And I get that she had to do what she had to do at the time she did it, but all of this brought you hopefully some peace of mind, even though you had already eliminated her, but it was just something large hanging over everyone's head. What does this girl know?
Yeah.
What more does she know? And even though you had an idea of Matthew's mindset, hearing it from someone who experienced it at that time, you got to know more about what was going on too. I mean, it was just, everything happens when it's supposed to, but man, I wish she would have come forward sooner.
Yeah.
Because it
took a while.
Yeah, it took a long time and a lot of work apparently on your side, but I'm glad that it finally did pay off. So he drops off Melissa, and instead of going straight home, he goes to drive his favorite route, which Stunt Road has become, I mean, legendary as far as shit happening in Malibu now. I mean, it was mentioned to me the first time with Maitrice Richardson. And, it's just, I'm like, I don't think I ever want to go on Stunt Road again.
Right.
I have friends who hiked up to Rosa's Overlook in March. And that was the first time I had seen the large amount of graffiti. And I'm not a hiker. I don't like the out of doors. It's beautiful from inside my house and I can see it through the window. I don't like dirt and sweating and all that stuff, but I understand the people that do. So my friends took a picture of themselves on Rosa's Overlook, and I was like, what the hell's happening up there? It just looked like Fred Sanford's, garage or something. It was just, it's like a mess up there. So apparently a lot of people access that by foot, hikers who like the out of doors. I don't get that, and it really isn't a place that people drive unless it's a bike or something with one wheel. Yeah. So the pictures, this is the other part of Matthew's case that is remarkable to me, is the amount of information that has been put out privately by you, by friends, by other people, not by the police. I mean, you have done the kind of work that most people who have a missing person in their family wish the detectives would do. I mean, you've basically become your own detectives.
We have. We are 100% Matthew's advocates, and we realize that now. Like, since we are going through this experience, like we see that it's entirely up to the families.
You're much more than advocates, though. I mean, you're advocates for sure. You are 100% advocates for sure, but you have become 1,000% detectives.
I agree.
I mean, I really don't know. I think all of us wish we had. If something like this were, God forbid, to happen to, you always think this isn't going to happen to you. And you always feel bad when it happens to another family. But this has happened to you. But God forbid it happens to anyone. I wish that everyone had whatever it took that you banded together and did this. And whether it's putting the word out. And I'm a big fan of crowdsourcing, especially for missing persons. For, a case where we know what's happened and there has been foul play. That can be debated. Some people think media, reporters, podcasts can insert themselves into an investigation and make things worse. But I just don't believe that. And especially when someone's missing, it's more than important. It's paramount to get the word out to every ear that's open, every eye every eye that can see, every person that can walk and search. It's really, I'm not going to say anything bad about crowdsourcing an investigation, because this is, you have found more than most, veteran detectives. It's amazing to me what you have found and what you have done. So we'll go back to the timeline, because it's just, there are probably some questions. I do have to ask, who found the key? His key was found on a rock near the car?
Yeah.
Was that you, Colleen? Did you find the key?
No, it had been actually someone that was hiking up there looking around for Matthew, ended up going over there and finding it, and they submitted it to the Matthew Weaver tips, and I saw the picture on there and contacted everyone, and then we had the PI go and pick it up and bring it to my dad's where Matthew's car is and turn it on and see if it would go on, and it was a key, and it turned it did turn on his car.
Okay. So his car, even though Matthew is a car enthusiast, and that's one of the things I love about him. I love cars too. Old muscle cars is sort of my love. Even though he told Melissa he'd be going home, he drove, not unusual for him, to Stunt Road. Now, is Stunt Road something one would do at night in the dark?
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
As many times as we've been up there, you'd be amazed. All the car guys that line up and just race through that canyon.
Right.
They all meet up there.
Right.
So yeah, it is definitely was not something strange that he went up there. And he took a photo up from the parking lot at around, I think it was right before 6 in the morning, or maybe around 6:15 in the morning, that said Friday, and it's an image
the sunrise, early morning,
lot.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he was up there in an area. How do I say this? Well, I'll say what the evidence is, and then I'll ask you the question. So the evidence is that his car ends up at the top of Rosa's Outlook, which is not typically a place where one would be able to get a car. His car is in a bit of peril as one tire is kind of off the side of a mountain. And he had posted a picture from the parking lot, as you said, Brooke. And do you feel that he drove the car up there, or do you feel something happened and someone put the car there?
I will tell you this, and this is actually really good to put out there publicly. There was a lot of, people tend to think why Matthew wouldn't have drove his car down there, and I disagree. I'm not going to lie, Matthew's done some dumb stuff in his cars.
He's 20. He was 21 at the time.
Exactly. So the Fridays are a very big, heavy work day for that. There's a microwave tower up there that's being worked on. It was just privately bought in a few years back, and they're doing construction up there. I believe they're turning it into some type of venue of some sort.
Oh, wow.
But so we have been there consecutively on Friday mornings, same time Matthew was, just to see what goes on. And there's tons of workers going in and out, and that's probably why that gate was open.
Okay.
They had left it open, and there's work trucks going in there. So I don't know if he thought they're driving back there, so can I. I know he's been on foot to that location,
right?
That platform. I know he's been there before, but maybe he thought maybe my car can make it down there. I don't know. That's the only thing that I struggle with, is what kind of state of mind he was in to go to drive that car down there. Did he have a case of the go fuck it? I don't care what happens to me, because we know he was in kind of an upset mood that morning.
Right?
Was it that? I don't believe that he was not the driver of that car, and I will tell you exactly why.
Okay.
Because, we know he's up there at the top of the parking lot, and he takes a picture, right?
Yes.
Well, the camera footage from that microwave tower shows the vehicle being driven down there right around 7:15 a.m., okay? And you can only catch a very top part of the car, just enough to know that was the time that car was traveling down there. You can't see anybody.
You can't see who's driving it, right?
Nope, you can't see nothing else. But at 8:30, Matthew made a phone call to Matt Sr., and Matt Sr., he didn't answer. I don't know if he was at work still or if he was asleep, but he didn't get the phone call, right? And that was a little after 8:30. Well, then at around 11, he's calling the girl he was hanging out with.
Right.
So had he been robbed or somebody chased him down that trail at that point, those phone calls would have been much different, because we know he had access to his phone. Had something happened prior to that, he would have been calling 911 or calling me, calling his dad over and over and over, I need help. It would have been a different scenario. And I think that, it appears that he drove the car just enough to where, he couldn't drive
go anymore. Yeah.
There's now a boulder in front of you, and there is not enough space to fit a
car.
Turn
around. Yeah.
Yep, and it appears that he tried to reverse, and that's where the ground broke away underneath the right rear tire. So I think maybe he was just messing with the car up there, trying to get it unstuck. I totally see that scenario in my head. And again, I could be totally 100% wrong, but to me, I've thought about this. I think about this stuff,
I'm sure.
all day long.
Every day.
My whole life, it consumes us every day. So,
I'm sure.
But but that's the huge points right there, is that simply we know he had access to his phone.
Okay.
And if he had access to his phone, I would think that the phone calls would have been a lot more urgent. There would have been, he's not a dumb kid. Matthew's smart. He's not an idiot. If somebody had robbed him or was chasing him and he had his phone, I'm sure he would have called 911. You know what I mean?
Which a question to me, and you're right, that's probably the scenario. But the question to me is, the unfortunate part is that Matthew Sr. was either out of cell range and couldn't get the call or didn't hear it, and Melissa Sanchez was at work and couldn't answer the call three and a half hours later.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if those two numbers happen to have been some of the last numbers he called, and someone found his phone and was trying to call someone.
So you're absolutely right, and I've thought about that too, because we thought like if somebody staged this whole thing even, or like somebody else took his phone and sent those, but it's like, how would they know that was like, his name or that was, I don't know, how would they know who they were calling? But you're right, they could have just seen that those were the last
numbers
calls he made.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I just seem like that seems just like a lot.
It does. No, you're right. I get exactly what you're saying, and it's just a question that has, because Matthew and his habits, but it's a question that has hung over my mind in the last 3 to 4 weeks when I've been looking at this case after Jennifer sent me the email and said, please cover this. It's really troubling me because it's in my old neighborhood, and my family lives there still, and she loves Malibu with all of her heart, and she doesn't want all of the, I don't want to call it bad press, but let's just call it what it is, all the bad press that's happening that I feel like has been almost, I don't want to say covered up and sound like a conspiracy theorist, but nobody wants to. It would be like if somebody set off a dirty bomb at Disneyland.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to admit it because no one wants, tourist season to have plummeted.
Oh, yeah.
So nobody wants, Malibu is the place where, everyone goes and it's magical.
Yeah,
except it's fucking
there,
weird. It's a fucking weird town. I'm sorry, I just have to call it what it is.
It absolutely is, and I see that more and more. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that goes up there, and I don't know what's going on with Lost Hills, whether they're turning the other cheek. I mean, there's money up there. Let's get real. They don't want to scare the money away,
right.
And they don't want to frazzle the communities up there. But still, it's not right because there's a problem.
There's many problems. I think there's many problems, and I don't know a huge amount about Malibu, but what I do know is that it's a mixture of, let's call it new money. Like you get a lot of money doing whatever you do, and you buy property there, and literally almost people from the 1800s who've never left their mountain, their moonshine still. It's a mixture of weird ass people.
It is absolutely. Even the elite people can be sometimes weird. Like I've gone over every theory in my head, girl. Like trust me, it's like okay, there's that, and then there's also the simple fact of look at the area. It's a perfect place to commit a crime. That's why you have these gang members going up there, murdering people, hiding bodies. You can't just murder someone right in the city and dispose their body and nobody saw it. But it's real easy to get away with that up in those mountains. No, and that's why they keep finding bodies everywhere.
Right. It's interesting you bring that back up because every time remains are found, I'm sure everyone's heart stops.
Yep.
And you think, oh my God, is this the day? Is this the day? And there have been, in my recollection, I don't remember in this short a time, this amount of disappearances and found bodies ever in Malibu. It seems like a very odd time.
Yeah.
The last couple of years, the random sniper shooter who, they did arrest Anthony Rauda, as Colleen mentioned at the beginning. However, there's more people that think he isn't.
He's a patsy?
Yeah.
That's my thought.
Let's just call it what it is, right?
Now, wait a minute. I got to hold on. This is a lot.
Mark's head spinning.
My
Sorry.
head is spinning. So, a couple of things just for clarification on where Malibu is. Most people think of Malibu as just being along the coast, but what they call Malibu isn't just Malibu City. It goes up into the hills, heading sort of east-northeast into the West San Fernando Valley, and that's where the Lost Hills Sheriff Station is. That has jurisdiction.
Which is the craziest thing in the world.
Right, which is crazy. It is crazy because it's far away from actual Malibu. But what I'm curious about here is what you guys have been talking about here, this uptick in crime. What's been going on there?
Well, I mean, so I know in our particular search area, which is, where Matthew's car was found, that Rosa Overlook, I personally, since I've been running this Help Find Matthew Weaver page that we have on Facebook, I've had numerous people reach out to me and tell me experiences they've had with the guards and workers up at that
and it never gets reported.
Nope. They actually, a gentleman who grew up in the area his whole life, they saw the gate open. This was about 2 years ago. The gate was left open, and they said, "Hey, you know what? Let's drive our truck back there." And I guess those guards locked it behind him and held him at gunpoint.
Oh my God!
They had to call the sheriff, and the sheriffs came and had him, released right away. But it's like, okay, how are you allowing these guys to hold people at gunpoint? They're not cops,
right?
They're security guards,
right?
That's absurd. There's just, I don't know. It's very strange. And then somebody else had mentioned something about a year and a half ago, like a bull being snipered, shot right between the eyes, right up there on Shuren and Stunt, right at our intersection, and it was a sniper shot right to the head, right? And so they called the police, and the police were didn't want to do nothing about it. They just got the bull out of there, never said nothing, and the people were like, "Well, what do you mean? Somebody just snipered an animal right between its eyes, and you guys are just like, okay, They
never went looking for the shooter? They never went looking for the shooter?
Nope, never asked a question about it, didn't want to say anything about it. It was just very odd,
So Mark is a busy man and doesn't dig into this stuff like I do, and now like you do because you have to try and work on Matthew's case. But producer Mark, there's been in the last year and a half, 4 bodies have been dumped near Las Virgenes and Topanga Canyon and brush, and they've pretty much narrowed it down to gangland hits where they just have dumped the person's body there. It's as Brooke said, it's a perfect place to commit a crime, but it looks like they may not have been committed there, but they've definitely been dumped there.
Yeah, or just to dump a body.
Yes, and several people have gone missing in similar situations as Matthew. Like Elaine Park left her quote-unquote boyfriend's house in Calabasas early one morning, and her car was found on PCH locked up with her phone, wallet, keys inside, and she's been missing for 2 years now.
Yeah.
Matthew's case is another puzzler, although his phone, wallet, are hopefully with him. His key was found on a rock. The car was locked up. There's been so much going on in Malibu. I kind of feel like it's being hidden.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
It does. I kind of agree with what you said, Melissa. This might be something like a Chamber of Commerce thing, where the sheriffs are kind of, I don't want to say colluding with, but they're working perhaps with the local government to keep bad news out of the public eye.
100%. That's what I think is going on up there too.
Besides the bull, the other story besides Matthew's disappearance is the death of Tristan Beaudet, who had rented a space for camping for he and his 2 young daughters. And somehow the only adult in the tent was shot with one shot to the head by a sniper through the tent.
And the girls were not?
The girls were not hurt. They have their mother, and she was... there's so much... This is too layered, but Tristan Beaudet was a scientist who worked, who may have been targeted by anti-vaxxers. So let's not. There's a lot of conspiracy there. I know.
I don't have my Twilight Zone music handy here. I guess we should just continue with this case. I get the picture though. There's a lot of weird stuff going on.
That's it. And that's the perfect sentence, producer Mark. There's so much weird stuff going on in Malibu right now. It's overwhelming. But Matthew's case is much more of a puzzler because of who he is, what he did, the way he behaved, and the small amount of things that are left for us to look through and find. So let me ask you this: who if you don't want to give me the name, you don't have to, because I haven't found his name or his or her name anywhere. But who was the drone operator that found Matthew's hat and potentially shirt?
That was actually the person, Brad, as a land surveyor, took the pictures of the 797, or I believe it's 797 of the pictures, and actually a tip was submitted.
Okay.
Found the hat, and then
we had
went out there, and we didn't know if it was going to be a hat or not. Went out there like, oh, let's just give it a try. We went out there and looked and found the hat and the ripped up T-shirt.
So just a mental note right here, we will put the link in our show notes of producer Mark. You have no idea how much Colleen and Brooke and probably other friends and family members have done to put information out for anyone to help find Matthew. There are 797 photos on a file online you can look through to see the area, and someone used a drone and found a red dot, and there was a tip that came in, and Colleen and Brooke found Matthew's hat, an Angels hat, which is unusual because everyone in that area would be a Dodgers fan.
We're in Dodger blue territory.
Right.
Yep.
So an Angels hat, and I've seen the pictures, and the hat looks a little worse for the wear, but the T-shirt is startling. So now I know the description, and I don't know if this comes from Melissa Sanchez or someone else, but he was either wearing a white shirt or a black shirt. She's not sure, and it was black pants and his red tennies and his red hat. So we're not sure if the white shirt is his, but it's pretty toe up. I mean, it looks like a rag, but you obviously could differentiate and find that it's a T-shirt, and it was right next to the hat.
It was fairly close.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
15,
only just
20 feet.
Yeah, it was actually just maybe 5 or 10 feet away from the hat.
Okay.
And it appeared to have had like old blood. It looked like old blood. It was like brown. You know what I mean?
Right.
And again, like we 100% know that's Matthew's head. It's a custom hat. It's a throwback Angel style. It's his size. He's got a really slender head, little head.
And Vanessa found the receipt, right? His ex-girlfriend?
Yeah, and that's why it looked like it was in such good shape. It was actually brand new, like brand new.
Oh, he'd just gotten it.
And it was
Okay.
kind of preserved a little bit under a fallen tree. That's why we didn't see it, because we've searched in that area before, so it was kind of like tucked under it a little bit.
Wow.
So that's why the hat looked like it was in such good condition, especially since was sitting there
for
all
months.
year
Yeah.
through the rain and all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the shirt, like that was our main concern, because we don't know if that's his shirt. You know, and it would be nice if they would have ran it, through their system to see if Matthew's DNA's on it.
Let's talk about this, because I got to be honest. I try not to beat too hard on the heads of law enforcement, because I do have great respect for a majority of the men and women who choose this profession, because I believe that they come from I believe in my heart that you all start from a good place, and it doesn't always work out that way. And I get it. Yeah. There's not enough people and too many cases and blah, blah, blah. But listen to this, Producer Mark, because Producer Mark has heard me go through, my machinations with law enforcement. Some of them have been fantastic to me. I'm very blessed in that I have some really great law enforcement friends who have been wonderful. And then some of them have been much less than wonderful. But I will tell you, I have never seen or heard what happened to you in communication with law enforcement. So Producer Mark, Colleen, and Brooke find Matthew's hat and a shirt that they're, trying to find out if it's his. And they turn over the evidence to Lost Hills. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
To the sheriffs. Okay.
And the sheriffs then turn it over to LAPD homicide.
Okay, now that's baffling. That I heard you guys talking about pre-show. What on earth? How does LAPD get involved in this?
Go ahead and tell them.
Okay, so I'll explain to you that scenario. So, Matthew, he's from Simi. He's lived here his whole life, pretty much, but he had just recently rented a room in Granada Hills, because his job site was in, the Sylmar area, Sun Valley area, so it's kind of like in the middle for him.
Okay,
right.
So just so the tipsters listening know, Granada Hills is actually city of Los Angeles.
Correct.
And Simi Valley is in the county of Ventura, correct?
Correct.
And that would be the Ventura County. and Lost Hills Sheriffs, that's Los Angeles County Sheriffs, because it's unincorporated county that they cover, and Malibu, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, you're 100% right. And so with missing person cases, because, like I said, with Matthew's situation, the only thing that was left there was the car. There was no blood. There was nothing to indicate, that there was a crime committed, right? Just due to that simple fact alone, this is just a missing persons case. And with that being said, the way they handle missing persons cases, they get assigned to residency. So
okay, that's ridiculous.
Yes, it is.
Yep. The car was found
abandoned. But wait,
okay.
Mark. Okay. But wait, go ahead. Please, Colleen, explain the email, or Brooke. I know, Brooke, you had turned over the evidence to Lost Hills. It took, months before they then gave the...
we gave it to them January 29th, because that's when we found the hat, and then I believe it
took them like over a month or two to go pick it up from them, because we were mad.
Was at least 2-3 months. It was a very, very long time.
It was a long time.
To actually...
And you had to call and check up, like, hey, have you tested the evidence? Or like, oh, we haven't picked it up yet.
Yeah.
So Colleen sends a follow-up email. Hey, just wondering, have you had a chance to test the shirt yet? And you tell producer Mark what happened. And
pretty much Detective Palmer had emailed me back and said, no, that we're not going to test the hat or the T-shirt because it's pretty much like it's not a real crime, and there has to be evidence of a crime for them to test it.
So his abandoned car, his hat and shirt with possible blood stains found, thrown over into a canyon, is not enough probable cause to run any sort of serology test.
All of which were found in the jurisdiction of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, that's insane.
Yes.
And here let's this simple fact alone, that now it's been almost a year since he's been missing. Like, come on, guys, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
This isn't day one now, where I'm sure
right.
the police are all thinking in their head, oh, this kid's probably just partied too hard and he'll surface later. Or he probably
suicided.
From the beginning, that wasn't the case.
Exactly.
Because, Matthew don't answer to anybody. He's a grown man. He's
right.
you know what I mean? And he wouldn't hesitate to ask me for help or his dad or his sister if he needed it. Like, we knew something happened to him. By day 3, I knew something horrible happened to him, because I honestly, the first day I thought, okay, maybe he was wasted and did some dumb stuff in his car. He's probably sleeping it off, one of his buddies. But then the more friends we talked to, and nobody had talked to him and nobody knew, I was just like, oh God, this is bad. Something happened to him for sure. We never do this.
Of course you know. Of course a family knows.
But it's hard to get that in their heads, because they don't know him like we do. They don't know, like, I'm sure every mother says, well, I know my son, he would have called me. You know what I mean?
But there's you'll have to excuse me while I say this. You're right. Every mother or father would say, like, well, my kid is an angel and doesn't do anything. The difference is your family is so unique and that you are so transparent. You say everything that has gone on in Matthew's life. And I don't care what someone does. It can lend itself to maybe what happened to them if you know their habits, but it doesn't matter what he was doing or not doing. He deserves to be found. He deserves for people to be looking. He deserves for this to be taken seriously. After a while, and it's such a fine line as far as timing. He didn't, well, I fucked up, the underside of my car, so I'm going to go kill myself. Oh, I got up into this, canyon and I can't get out, so I'm going to walk away from my life and start over.
Yeah.
That's just not,
no way.
He had a family, he has ties, things he loves, people he loves, people who love him. He's not just going to walk away from his life like a maniac.
Yep.
And start over and pretend he's someone else. That isn't a possibility. So besides, and this is just the tagline, producer Mark, not only did the detective, send Colleen just a lovely message back saying serology is not going to give a shit about this really probably important evidence. Also, do you happen to have his dental records? Which they had submitted months before.
Can you believe that? And
no.
Let me tell you this. All the information that these detectives had was we got all of it.
I know you did.
Literally handed it to them with a bow. Here's his, us footprinting him, tracking him on his apps on his phone, all of that stuff, his timeline, everything, and the dental records. Okay, we found out he went to Western Dental in 2017. Here's where you go and get his records. And I was furious. We'll come to find out when they find another body in January, and nobody has his dental records. What the fuck? They're supposed to have that within 30 days. That is part of the chain of command for like a missing person.
Yes,
is for them to have that DNA, those dental records, all that shit within 30 days. And these people, I'm like, are you kidding me? We had to go. And we had to beg Western Dental because Matthew's an adult. We're not.
Yeah, you're not allowed to get the records. Exactly. Yeah. There's HIPAA laws. Exactly.
Yep. And we were fortunate enough that the lady was like, she got management involved and said, you know what, I'll give you guys a copy of it, and gave it to Matt Sr. And we handed it over straight to Lost Hills just because we did have a contact over there that was. He was more involved in this case. He's not there anymore.
Of course not.
Like I said, all the weird stuff that's happening over there. They had, I don't know, internal affairs came in, people got moved out, stuff like that.
A lot of shifting.
So unfortunately, the one officer that did help us a lot, he's no longer there, which sucks. But
so you did all of the. I'm telling you, you did all of the detective work.
Yeah. Yes, we did.
And that is a really good way to say it. That you handed all of the footwork. I'm a firm believer that most cases are solved with good old-fashioned shoe leather. Somebody talks, a cop knocks on the right door, etc., or they find a bunch of evidence. And if there isn't a bunch of evidence to find, it needs more digging. And that's their jobs. And you did all the digging. You did all of the research. I mean, I really have never seen a family and group of friends band together with crowdsourcing as much as Matthew's case. His ex-girlfriend helps to track his footprint on Snapchat. His friends can tell you he did this and he did that and he was here and we did this and you know his patterns and what he likes to do and that this is not unusual for him to drive here. I mean, it's from first glance, it looks like it could be a very, weird scenario. It could be a bunch of different things, but it really, the more you know, and you have done such a great job of putting the information out, the more you know, the more you whittle down the number of scenarios it could be. It just couldn't be all of the, it's such a mystery when a man's car is found abandoned in an area that's kind of odd and hard to get to. So you are, Brooke is pretty assured that he may have driven up there himself. Yeah. Got caught in some trouble and didn't know how to get out. The car, I just need to ask some questions about the car. So, do you know who put the yellow X's on the car?
The police did that. That's how they basically, once they found the car there, that's how, I think that's what they do when they're clearing it. Search and rescue, they put X's okay, there's no bodies in here,
So a car they feel is abandoned, they basically destroy by...
Yeah, I guess so.
So you couldn't fucking chalk the tire like all the tickets I get
exactly.
Parking? You couldn't fucking chalk the tire with red chalk. You have to take yellow spray paint to the hood, the doors, and the windshield.
Wait a minute. Yep. Okay, I am really getting pissed now. So they destroyed a crime scene.
Destroyed the car. Well, destroyed the car.
Well, which is a potential crime scene.
Well, yeah, but that's after they had, as Brooke said, that's after they had quote unquote cleared it. But it's the pictures and the video from the car. I thought someone had vandalized it, not knowing it was the police. Thank you for answering that. It looks like the front bumper is missing.
Yeah, that's from the tow. They had a really hard time getting it towed out of there. So, and in all, actually, I guess the car starts up. I don't know how he got it down there without doing much damage to it, but the most he did was I think rip the oil pan.
Right. Because it's low. I thought the underside would have been torn out.
I thought so too.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable when you walk down there to think, how the hell did he get this car down there like that? He had to have done it real carefully.
Yeah, I'm sure. I thought maybe they airlifted it out. So let me ask you this. When you say they've cleared the car, meaning there's no, Matthew's not in the trunk or something like that, and
Correct.
There's no apparent blood or evidence around or near the car that would say there was an issue. did they fingerprint it? Matthew is small of stature. He's like 5'8", 5'9". Is the seat set back? Is the rearview mirror turned? Is there anything that could have shown someone else drove it?
Like, I wish that the family could have seen the car where it was initially, because law enforcement got to it first.
Okay.
So we just have to go off what they told us. You know what I mean? But I believe that. Okay, here's the weird thing: is they did run fingerprints on the car, and it's like, okay, so you run the car through serology, but you can't run. I don't get it. Like, there was no evidence of a crime then, but you're telling us you processed the car. Like, it makes me think that they didn't even process his car. I don't know if they will just lie to you like that, but the car sat in Lost Hills forever, and then LAPD came and got it, and supposedly they ran it through. They ran it for prints, and it came up inconclusive. And that doesn't. It's like, you would have at least had Matthew's prints all over that steering wheel, all over the inside of that car. So that made no fucking sense.
Right.
It totally made me wonder, like, did they even do anything with this car? But by law, can they just tell us they did? Or maybe it's a quick scan, and, like, I have no idea what the hell they did. But
who has possession of the car now?
Matt Sr.
Okay, all right. So at least the car's back. Could there be an independent review of the evidence? Could someone else potentially who might really test it for something? I mean, does it, if Matthew Sr. has it, does it look like Matthew Jr. was the last person to have driven it to him?
I mean, they've ripped, when I went and saw the car about 2.5 months ago, they had completely moved everything. Moved the seats back, it had the black the black powder all over it. So I sat in the car to see, because me and Matthew are almost the same height. He's a couple inches taller than me. But, just to see, because if the seat's really close, then I know obviously it wasn't Matthew. If the seat was, pushed back as far as possible, I know that's not Matthew.
Okay.
But it had been just completely, it would look, it was not how when I first saw it. When they towed it out, I saw it, and I had pictures of it, and then compared to when I went and saw it when it was at my dad's.
Yeah, they were pillaged through it. So, I mean, I guess they did do some kind of testing on it if you've seen the black powder calling. But just, to me, that was odd that you're going to tell us months later that you can't test a shirt because there's no crime, but then how did you run the car?
Why would you think the car might be considered... there might be a reason for a crime to have happened, and you dust the car, but you find clothing that is definitively, at least the hat, definitively proven to be his, and it's just not a high enough priority for you?
Odd.
I have a question about the shirt and the hat. Who has custody of that stuff right now?
It's at LAPD.
LA, not the sheriff's department, but the Los Angeles Police Department?
Los Angeles.
No. It took a lot of people calling in, and my dad and a couple of other people for LAPD to finally come and pick it up from Lost Hills.
It sat at Lost Hills for a while, producer Mark.
Long time.
Then
and
was
I told
picked
them,
up. Yeah.
If you guys aren't going to test it, just give it back to me. My family will pay for it to get tested.
That was my question.
Yeah.
It's sad because we get the runaround. We get the runaround with these guys because Lost Hills will be like, well, this isn't our case, so we can't help you or do anything. But then we got LAPD that's not our jurisdiction, and there's no evidence of a crime. It just sucks.
Have you guys tried to raise any money, maybe through crowdsourcing, to hire an attorney? You guys need an attorney.
I know we do. I know.
I mean, that's something that you might want to consider doing. Because
we have the GoFundMe, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is one of the reasons that even though this case is just so heartbreaking, that I wanted to cover it, because I wanted anyone who's available to hear this, and anyone within the sound of my voice and Colleen and Brooke's voice, I want them to know what's going on, and that, you have been so transparent with you're not hiding a thing about Matthew, his life, what's happening, what you think happened. You're not hiding a thing. And you are also in need of help, and you are so willing to give everyone any information they need to help you. You're not impeding any part of this investigation. You are leading the investigation, in my mind. you are leading the investigation. And I know there's a reward, which we will put, a $50,000 reward, which we will put in the show notes. But yes, it's been suggested, I'm sure many times, to get someone to help you. And I know that's not as easy as it sounds, but maybe someone listening will.
That would be amazing, Melissa. Yeah, and it's just you helping us right now even get that word out. This is amazing. It has helped us in many ways. Like I said, we were kind of iffy, like, should we be telling this much information about Matthew? But you know what? What do we got to lose at this point? And it's done nothing but good. We've had so many people. I mean, we have a guy building a map for us. We have, drone pilots, land surveyors. We have the people who came forward and donated the $50,000 reward. Like, it's brought all of that to us. And I guess the one thing that we could really use some help in, like you were saying, is some legal help. And I mean,
there's got to be somebody. There's got to be.
Yeah.
To represent us for free, but even just some guidance, because we don't know what the hell we're doing, Oh,
but you do.
I'll tell you, we raised the stink with the LAPD about getting Matthew's articles back because we were like, screw it, we're going to test them ourselves.
That's
and we
right.
went through all this shit, and they finally said, okay, fine, we'll release them to you, make an appointment. And then somebody that has a little legal knowledge spoke to us and said, you might not want to do that. You're releasing them of any liability once you take those items, and you know what I mean? And you need to be pushing them to do their fucking job.
That's why you need legal counsel.
Yeah.
You really need, because there is. I'm very reluctant to say this on these cases. Some of them frustrate me, but I've never said this before. There's a scandal lurking behind all of this, and it's bigger than just this case. And you guys, I hope there's somebody in the audience that will be listening and either can provide some legal services or can refer some legal services.
Yeah,
because it's really important here.
We'll definitely put that, that message out too, that if there's anyone listening that can help, or as producer Mark said, can refer you to someone who can help. If they can't provide you the help, maybe they know someone, because everybody knows someone that can do something. And you have done so much already. It's overwhelming to me what the responsibility has fallen on you. And it's, the only thing I can equate it to is having a family member who is ill and you have to be their advocate in the healthcare system. It just doesn't, it never dawns on me that if something terrible happens and someone is hurt or someone is missing, that you have to then also become a detective, a scientist, your own legal counsel. I mean, it's amazing the number of hats you have both had to wear to try and find your family member, to try and find Matthew. That's why when Tipster Jennifer sent me this email, I was like, I don't want to touch this. I don't want to bother these people. They're going through enough. They're working hard. They don't want to hear from me.
You know what, Melissa? This is what's keeping us going. It's like, I don't wish this scenario upon anybody. This is like one of the worst things you could possibly be dealing with is, having someone missing and you don't have no idea what happened to them. You have no closure. Like, I don't even know what to tell my, his brothers and sisters. Like, it's awful. And
every day.
And, we all know in our heart we're not going to ever see Matthew again, but then here we all have this little tiny, tiny hope still that tortures us and torments us every day. Like, maybe, what if, and
Right.
it's just a constant battle. And I think that the thing that keeps Colleen and I sane is being Matthew's detectives. Like,
Right.
It really is. It makes us feel like, oh, this is all we can do right now, and we won't give up. We want answers for Matthew. We want to find him. We want to bring him home. We want to bury him next to his uncle. We want some closure. We want to be able to grieve and, like,
just to know what happened.
Yeah, and it's important to me that we all, even like the kids learn, like they're being faced with a really tough lesson at a very young age.
Absolutely.
And my whole thing to them is I want to teach them, like, this is life. Whatever life throws at you, you can't give up. You have to keep moving forward. You have to stay strong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's all you can do. And for Colleen and I think that it honestly is like almost like that's what's keeping us, from
Moving
falling
forward.
apart.
Yeah.
Is investigating this case, and this is just a part of our life now. And I feel, I don't know, Colleen, I'm sure you can agree, but you feel feel a lot better when you're doing stuff, right? When we're doing stuff for Matthew.
Well, he's obviously a lovely soul, and he is really blessed that he has this incredible family who has had to step up more than any family should ever have to, and has done more than any family should ever have to keep his story in the top of mind, to keep information out there. And we are absolutely going to put the link to Origin Investigations with the 797 photos. You have your Facebook page, which is a wealth of information. I know there's local journalists who cover Matthew's story better than mainstream media.
Yeah.
You're always open and willing to be in any form of media for interviews, and we will put all of the information, the reward information, the hashtag Find Matthew Weaver Jr., keeping this case out there. Is there anything that you want to tell the Tip-Sters, before we go?
I want to, honestly, I want to thank everybody, because we have been very fortunate. There is a lot of good people out there still, and, it's been really eye-opening, just the support that we've gotten. We have been very blessed with that, I will say. And, yeah, whatever anybody can do out there to help us just keep spreading the word as far as we possibly can, because, like I said, we're never giving up. So Matthew deserves that.
He deserves all of that. And I think there's a lot of good people out there, like you said, but mostly because you're such good people, and Matthew was good people, and good people want to help good people. So we are really, really grateful that you took the time to talk to us, and we hope that something really positive comes of this soon. And thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you so much.
We really are grateful that Colleen and Brooke took time out of their day to talk to us, and it turned out to be a much different episode than I could have ever imagined. It really is the biggest rabbit hole I've ever dove into, and it's still, as I said at the beginning, there's still a lot of digging to be done, which we're still going to be digging and hopefully doing some things that can be helpful and help find Matthew. So if you know anything at all, please feel free to call us at 832-Tipsters. You can email us at jttipsters@gmail.com. We'll have all the links where you can send information directly to Matthew's family, and more cowbell.
And if you want to become a patron of the podcast, go to patreon.com/justthetipsters.